I first got involved in NASCAR in 2010. I did a part-time nationwide schedule, which is one of the classes in the series, while I was still racing IndyCar full-time. So I kind of dipped my toe in the beginning, but it's always been something that I've known about and had only gotten more curious about over the years.
And how would you describe your driving style on the track and off the track?
My driving style, both on and off the track, are very similar. I'm relatively aggressive, but I would say I'm more calculated aggressive, and I don't just stick my nose in if I don't think it's going to work. So it's about being smart and setting up passes, and sometimes it's about putting pressure on someone to make a mistake or just change lanes on the road and get out of my way. So they're very similar. I think that rituals or superstitions are things that as a person, because people have them in their life, whether they drive race cars or whether they drive to work and are a secretary or whatever they are, everybody can have superstitions, and I try not to have them because I feel like they're all in your head. If you believe in them, then they're real. So I really try to just not believe in them, or try and crush them quickly if I think I might be developing one.
And how did you get involved in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed?
I got involved with Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed when they came to me and said that they had a game that was coming out that was going to be on land and water and in the air, and the cars were going to transform. And when they said I could be a character that you could play in the game, I think that's, being a kid and playing games and being able to then be in one day was just something really, really neat, and something I want to be a part of.
And did you play a lot of video games growing up?
When I was growing up, I definitely played video games. All the way back to the days of the mats you lay down to run on, to the go-kart games, to all kinds of stuff. So when I was younger, I definitely liked playing games.
Would you say you had a favorite other than Sonic, of course?
I don't know if I had a favorite growing up with games. I think I remember liking the track and field game because it was a little active, and I remember liking racing go-karts because obviously that was a time when I was racing go-karts. So those were fun games, and Sonic was always fun to play, which is why I was so glad to be a part of Sonic now. Doing the voiceover work for the game, for my character it was more than I expected. It was more interesting than I expected and more involved than I expected. I thought that the director did a fantastic job pulling emotions out of you, and while you think you're sort of screaming and yelling and saying the right things in the right way, there's more to get there. And I remember he said when you start to break a sweat, it right, and it happened, and he was exactly right. So I broke a sweat doing the lines.
And how involved in the look and feel of your character on screen?
I was definitely involved with the look and feel of how I appear in the game. The color, what I look like, my special power of being able to shoot flames out of my car. Those were things that I was involved in, and I think that's when things are really successful, is when you really get into it and when you put yourself into it a little bit.
And you appeared at the Sega booth at E3 to announce your participation in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed and to reveal the car that you're driving today. Have you ever been to a video game convention before? What did you think about it?
I had never been to a video game convention until E3. That was a really amazing show. It was so visually entertaining. There was so much to see, and then to have my special Sonic race car there and to be able to have Sonic the Hedgehog with me was, I'm sure, visually cool for people to see.
How many different cars do you have on track, and how many cars do you have at home?
Well, with all the race teams that I drive for and the different series I drive in, I have a lot of race cars at the track. There's always 2 per series that's at the track for me. But then there are lots of them back at the race shop being built or ready to go to the next event, especially if it's a different style track like short track or big super speedway or road course. So there's lots of cars having to do with racing. And for myself at home, I don't have that many. Honestly, I only need 2. I have a nice fancy car, and I have a daily driver, and I don't need any more. And to be honest, I give away a lot of my cars. I I only need a couple. But I did buy a couple of my race cars, so I do have a couple of those.